8 hours before Aisha walked out of that house, she was standing in the kitchen, staring at a pot of soup that had already gone cold. The gas was still on. She had forgotten to turn it off. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Connell. "I won't be home early. Mama needs me." Aisha read it once. Then again. She placed the phone face down and laughed softly. Not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. She turned off the gas and sat on the kitchen floor, her back against the cabinet, breathing slowly like someone trying not to drown. This was how her life had become. Waiting, understanding, adjusting, silencing herself. All in the name of love. When Aisha married Connell 8 years earlier, she believed love meant sacrifice. She did not know it would mean sacrificing herself. Connell was everything people admired. Soft-spoken, calm, hardworking, the kind of man mothers prayed their daughters would marry. On their wedding day, his mother, Mama Grace, hugged Aisha tightly and whispered into her ear, "My daughter, I suffered for this boy. He is all I have." At the time, Aisha felt honored. She smiled and replied, "I will take good care of him, Mama." She did not know she had just made a promise that would cost her everything. The first year of marriage was sweet. Connell called her during work breaks. They laughed. They planned their future. But Connell also called his mother every morning. At first Aisha admired it. "He is a good son," she told herself. Then came the request. Small ones. "Mama needs money for drugs. Sada's school fees are short. Teo needs help till he finds a job." Connell always said the same thing. Family first. Aisha agreed. Every time. The problem was not that Connell helped his family. The problem was that he never stopped. And he never asked. Money left the house like water. Aisha began to count coins while Connell sent transfers. When she gently raised concerns, Connell would sigh. "Why do you women like money so much?" She stopped talking. When Teo moved into their house for a few weeks, Aisha cooked, cleaned, and smiled. Weeks became months. When she complained, Connell snapped. "Must everything be a problem? That's my brother." That night, Aisha cried silently beside him while he slept. The day she lost her pregnancy was the day something inside her broke completely. She was bleeding and alone in the hospital. Connell was not there. He was at his mother's house, fixing a leaking roof. "I'm sorry," he said on the phone. "Mama is old. I couldn't leave her." Aisha stared at the white hospital wall and nodded. She did not argue. She did not shout. She simply stopped expecting anything. Years passed. Her friends noticed the change. "You don't talk again," one of them said. Aisha smiled. "I'm fine." But she was not fine. She was empty. Connell mistook her silence for peace. "At least she has matured," he told people. At home, Aisha started saving small money from her tailoring jobs. Little by little. Quietly. She did not know what she was saving for. She only knew she needed a way out. Then came the Sunday that changed everything. They were supposed to attend her cousin's wedding together. Aisha had borrowed a dress. She stood in front of the mirror, forcing excitement. Connell walked in already dressed. "Mama just called," he said. "Sada's child is sick." Aisha swallowed. "We can go after the wedding. It won't take long." Connell frowned. "Why are you doing like this?" "Like what?" she asked. "Competing with my family." Her chest tightened. "I am not competing," she said softly. "I am your wife." Connell laughed, not cruelly, just dismissively. "You're too emotional." He left. Aisha sat on the bed in silence. That was the moment she knew. Not that her marriage was struggling, but that it was already dead. That night, Connell returned late. He did not notice the packed box hidden under the bed. He did not notice the calm on Aisha's face. He did not notice that she had already made peace with leaving. What he did not know, what no one knew, was that Mama Grace had been hiding something for years. Something that would soon come out. Something that would explain everything. Something that would shatter Connell completely. And when Aisha finally walked out of that house the next morning, she was not running away from her husband. She was running toward the truth. A truth that was about to explode. She left the house just after sunrise. The streets were still quiet, the kind of quiet that made every footstep sound loud in your head. Aisha carried only one small box in her handbag. Nothing else. She did not look back. Because if she did, she might change her mind. And she could not afford to change her mind. Connell returned home that evening feeling tired but satisfied. He had spent the whole day running errands for his mother. Bought her drugs. Fixed a broken window. Dropped money for food. As he opened the door he smiled. Aisha, I'm back. No answer. He dropped his keys and walked into the bedroom. The bed was neatly made. Too neatly. That was when he noticed it, the empty wardrobe. His heart skipped. Aisha, he called again, louder this time. He rushed to the dining table and saw the envelope. His hands shook as he opened it. The word and the letter were not loud. They were calm. Too calm. Connell, I have tried. I stayed longer than I should have. I waited for things to change. I am not leaving because you are a bad man. I am leaving because I am no longer alive inside this marriage. Please do not look for me until you are ready to hear the truth. Aisha. Connell sank into the chair. This was not how things were supposed to happen. Aisha was patient. Aisha understood him. Aisha always waited. Or so he thought. His first instinct was anger. How can she just leave, he muttered. After everything? Then fear followed. What would people say? What would his mother say? He grabbed his phone and dialed Mama Grace immediately. Mama, he said, his voice tight. Aisha has left the house. There was a pause on the other end. A long one. Left. Mama Grace asked slowly. Left how? She packed and left, Connell said. She didn't even argue. Another pause. Then Mama Grace sighed. Come to the house, she said. We need to talk. That sentence made Connell uneasy. Mama Grace never said we need to talk. Aisha, meanwhile, was sitting in a small guest room at her friend Zainab's house. Zainab watched her quietly. You sure about this? Zainab finally asked. Aisha nodded. I am tired. Zainab reached for her hand. What happened? Aisha stared at the wall. Nothing, she said. Then she laughed bitterly. That's the problem. Nothing ever happened. Back at Mama Grace's house, Connell sat on the edge of the sofa. Mama Grace poured him tea with shaking hands. You know, she began, when your father died, everything fell on me. Connell nodded. I know, Mama. I suffered, she continued. I begged. I cried. I sacrificed. I know, Connell said again, impatience creeping in. Mama Grace looked at him carefully. Do you? He frowned. Mama, what is this about? Aisha has left. Mama Grace exhaled slowly. There are some things I didn't tell you, she said. Connell's chest tightened. Things about your marriage, she added. Connell sat up straight. What do you mean? Mama Grace stared into her cup. I told you to always choose family, she said. I pushed you to put us first. Connell nodded. Because that's right. Mama Grace's lips trembled. But I knew what it was doing to your wife. Connell froze. You knew. She nodded slowly. She came to see me. Connell's heart pounded. When? Many times, Mama Grace said quietly. She begged me to talk to you. Connell stood up. And you didn't tell me? Mama Grace finally looked up. I told her to endure. The words hit him like a slap. You told her to endure? Connell repeated. She is a woman, Mama Grace said weakly. That is what women do. Connell felt something twist inside him. That's it, he asked. You watched my marriage die and said nothing? Mama Grace opened her mouth to speak. Then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and stiffened. Connell noticed. Who is that? He asked. No one, she said too quickly. Connell reached for the phone. Mama. He pulled it away. Leave it, she snapped. Connell stared at her. In all his life his mother had never spoken to him like that. Something was wrong. Very wrong. That night Connell could not sleep. Mama Grace's words kept replaying in his head. He begged me. Aisha begged. For the first time, Connell wondered how many cries he had ignored. The next morning, Aisha received a call from an unknown number. He almost ignored it. But something told her to answer. Hello. Aisha, a woman's voice said. It's Mama Grace. Aisha closed her eyes. Yes, Mama. I need to see you, Mama Grace said. There are things you need to know. Aisha hesitated. I'm tired, Mama. I know, Mama Grace replied softly. But what I am about to tell you, it concerns why your marriage was never going to survive. Aisha's heart raced. What do you mean? Mama Grace swallowed. There is something about Connell's father, she said. Something I hid. Aisha's breath caught. Something that shaped everything, Mama Grace continued, including how Connell treats women. Silence filled the line. Then Aisha whispered, "What did you hide, Mama?" Mama Grace did not answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Connell is not who you think he is." The line went dead. Aisha stared at her phone, shaking. Connell, at the same time, stood outside his mother's room, listening as she cried quietly inside. For the first time in his life, both husband and wife were standing on opposite sides of the same truth. And when that truth finally came out, it would destroy more than just a marriage. It would destroy the image of a mother, a son, and the story everyone had believed for decades. If this story is touching your heart, please pause for a moment and tap the like button. It helps this story reach someone who may need to hear it today. Share this video with a friend, a sister, or anyone who understands what it means to love and lose yourself. And if you're enjoying stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. More powerful stories are coming. Aisha did not sleep that night. Mama Grace's words kept repeating in her head like a drumbeat. Connell is not who you think he is. She sat on the edge of the mattress at Zainab's house, staring into the darkness. Every memory of her marriage began to rearrange itself, like pieces of a puzzle she had been forcing into the wrong shape for years. By morning she knew one thing clearly. She had to hear the truth. They met at Mama Grace's house that afternoon. Aisha almost turned back at the gate. The house looked the same, quiet, familiar, heavy with memories. But her legs carried her inside before fear could stop her. Mama Grace sat in the living room, smaller than Aisha remembered. Older. Tired. Connell was not there. That surprised her. "You came," Mama Grace said. Aisha nodded. "You said I needed to know something." Mama Grace gestured for her to sit. Her hands shook as she folded them together. "For years," she began slowly, "I have been afraid of this moment." Aisha waited. "When I married Connell's father," Mama Grace said, "I believed I was lucky. He was respected. People admired him." She laughed bitterly. But inside the house, he was another person. Aisha felt a chill. "He controlled everything," Mama Grace continued. "Money, movement, words, silence. If food was late, he punished me with coldness. If I spoke too much, he reminded me of my place." Aisha swallowed hard. "He loved his mother the same way Connell loves me," Mama Grace said quietly. "Blindly. Completely." Aisha's chest tightened. "When he got angry, he never raised his hand," Mama Grace went on. "But he destroyed you slowly. With neglect. With comparison. With silence." Aisha's breath came shallow. "By the time he died," Mama Grace said, tears rolling down her face, "I had forgotten who I was." Silence filled the room. Aisha finally whispered, "What does this have to do with Connell?" Mama Grace looked up, her eyes red. "Everything. Connell grew up watching that marriage. He saw his father ignore his mother's pain. He saw his grandmother's voice rule the house. And without knowing it, he learned one lesson very well. That a woman's role was to endure. That is why," Mama Grace said, "when you complained, he did not hear you. He only heard disobedience." Aisha's heart ached. "But why push him to choose you over me?" she asked softly. "Why encourage it?" Mama Grace wiped her tears. "Because I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid that if he loved you fully, he would leave me emotionally the way his father left me." Aisha stared at her. "So you sacrificed me," she said quietly. Mama Grace bowed her head. "Yes." The words sat heavy between them. At that exact moment, Connell was sitting in his car outside the house. He had arrived early, and he had heard everything. Every word. His hands clenched the steering wheel as his world cracked open. His mother had shaped him, trained him, used him, and he had destroyed his marriage in the process. For the first time in his life, Connell felt anger toward his mother. Real anger. Inside the house, Aisha stood up. "I loved your son," she said calmly. "I still care about him. But love is not meant to erase someone." Mama Grace nodded, sobbing. "I know," she whispered. "That is why I asked you here." She reached for a file on the table and pushed it toward Aisha. "What is this?" Aisha asked. "Proof," Mama Grace replied. of the lie I have been living. Aisha opened the file. Her hands trembled. Inside were hospital records, dates, names, a diagnosis. Aisha's heart pounded. What does this mean? She asked. Mama Grace spoke through tears. Connell's father did not die suddenly, she said. He took his own life. Aisha froze. He could not live with what he had become, Mama Grace continued. And before he died, he told me one thing. Aisha's voice shook. What? That if Connell ever learned the truth, it would destroy him, Mama Grace whispered. So I raised him to never question family, to always protect me, to never look too deeply. Aisha closed the file slowly. Everything made sense now. The control, the guilt, the silence, the misplaced loyalty. The door opened. Connell walked in. Both women turned. His face was pale. I heard everything, he said. Mama Grace gasped. Connell. He raised his hand. No, Mama. Please. He turned to Aisha. I am sorry, he said, his voice breaking. I thought I was doing the right thing. Aisha looked at him for a long moment. I know, she said softly. That's what makes it so painful. Connell stepped closer. Can we fix this? Aisha shook her head slowly. Some things, she said, are not broken. They are finished. Connell collapsed into a chair. Mama Grace wept openly. Days passed. News spread. People whispered. Some blamed Aisha. Some praised her courage. Connell started therapy. For the first time he began unlearning the lessons that ruined his marriage. Mama Grace fell sick shortly after. Loneliness finally caught up with her. Aisha visited her once. Not out of duty, but closure. Months later, Aisha stood in her own small apartment, sunlight filling the room. She smiled more now, laughed freely. She had not remarried. She was not in a hurry. One evening her phone buzzed. A message from Connell. I finally understand. I hope one day you forgive me. Aisha typed a reply. Already have. She placed the phone down and looked out the window. She had not walked away because she hated him. She walked away because she chose herself. And that choice saved her life. The truth Aisha thought she had uncovered was only the first door. Behind it was another one. And when that door finally opened, it changed the meaning of her departure forever. 3 months after Aisha left the marriage, life settled into a strange calm. She had her own small apartment now. Nothing fancy. Just clean walls, quiet nights, and a peace she had not known in years. She woke up when she wanted. She ate when she was hungry. She slept without waiting for footsteps at the door. People still talked. Marriage is not easy. She should have endured. What about forgiveness? Aisha listened, smiled, and said nothing. Because there were things she had not told anyone. Things even Connell did not know. One evening, as rain tapped softly on her window, Aisha received a message from an unfamiliar number. Good evening, Aisha. This is Dr. Martins. We need to talk. It's important. Her heart skipped. She knew that name. Dr. Martins was the doctor who treated her the day she lost her pregnancy. Her hands trembled as she replied. About what, sir? The reply came quickly. About something I should have told you years ago. Aisha felt the room spin. They met the next day at a quiet cafe. Dr. Martins looked older, heavier with regret. I've carried this for a long time, he said, stirring his tea. And when I heard you left your marriage, I knew I could no longer stay silent. Aisha swallowed. Please. Say what you need to say. He took a deep breath. The miscarriage you had, he began, was not natural. Aisha froze. What do you mean? Dr. Martin's voice was low. The stress levels in your body were dangerously high. Prolonged emotional neglect can cause serious damage. Aisha felt tears burn her eyes. There was more, he continued. You were pregnant again. The words hit her like thunder. No, she whispered. That's not possible. You didn't know, he said gently. You lost both pregnancies within weeks of each other. Aisha's hands shook violently. You were advised rest, he added. Emotional stability. Support. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. Support, she repeated. Dr. Martins nodded sadly. If you had stayed in that environment, it could have cost you your life. Silence swallowed the table. In that moment, Aisha understood something terrifying. Leaving did not just save her happiness, It saved her life. That night she cried for the children she never held. And then she forgave herself for leaving. Completely. Meanwhile, Connell was unraveling. Therapy had opened wounds he didn't know existed. For the first time he questioned everything. Why he felt guilty choosing himself. Why he felt responsible for his mother's happiness. Why his wife's pain always sounded like noise to him. One afternoon, while cleaning old files at his mother's house, he found a brown envelope hidden under a cupboard. His name was written on it. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside were letters. Letters written by his father. Letters he was never meant to see. Connell, if you are reading this, then I am gone. I was not a good husband. I learned too late that love without empathy is cruelty. I treated your mother like a duty, not a partner. And I see myself in you. Connell's chest tightened. If you don't unlearn what you saw, you will destroy the woman you marry. And you will call it responsibility. Connell dropped the letters and broke down. For the first time in his life he cried like a child. That evening, Connell drove to Aisha's apartment. He didn't call ahead. When she opened the door and saw him, she knew. Something had finally broken inside him. I know now, he said hoarsely. She stepped aside and let him in. He told her everything. The letters. The realization. The regret. Then Aisha told him her truth. About the pregnancies. About the doctor's words. About how close she came to losing everything. Connell collapsed to his knees. I didn't know, he sobbed. I know, Aisha said gently. That's the tragedy. Mama Grace died quietly 6 months later. Not alone, but with a heart full of regret. Before she passed, she asked to see Aisha one last time. Aisha went. Mama Grace held her hand weakly. I stole your life, she whispered. Please forgive me. Aisha squeezed her hand. You didn't steal it, she said softly. You showed me how precious it is. Mama Grace smiled and closed her eyes. Years later, Aisha stood on a stage at a small women's conference. She had started speaking, sharing her story. Not to shame anyone, but to free someone.